Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julia. Today, I know it's pretty much halfway through the month already, but I decided I wanted to do my March TBR. Anyway, to start it off, we have earlier at the beginning of this month, I read Graceling by Kristen Cashore, and so one of the first books on my TBR is Fire, which I think is the sequel. Oh, it's a companion novel. So I don't know if the events in this book are canon or not, but I've heard you should read this one next after the first one, because I think technically Bitter Blue is the second book in the series, but either way I want to try reading this one first. I originally picked up Graceling, thought I wouldn't like it that much, but I liked it a lot, and now I want to read the second book, or the companion novel, whatever. The next book on my list is Dragonflight. This is the first book in the Dragonriders of Pern series, and I picked this one up because I want to read Ready Player One, and I've heard it's a reference. It's not the only reason I picked this book up. After reading Graceling, I got into a huge YA fantasy mood, and since it's technically sci-fi, but since they're Dragonriders, in my mind, it still counts. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I think one interesting thing is that it's about a girl, and I know since it's sci-fi, there are a bunch of different planets, so I'm excited about this one. The next book on my list is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. And this book actually is recommended on, oh gosh, I don't remember her name. I'll probably put it around somewhere after. She recommended it as one of her favorite cozy fantasy novels, and this one is about a goblin prince. His name, I think, is Maya, and something happens where I think his entire family is murdered, and then he has to become the Goblin Emperor. I'm super excited about reading this one. Also, if you hear noises in the background, that's my dog. She's walking around. All the rest of my TBR are on my iPad, so I'm going to go get that and read them out real quick. Okay, so I lied. I forgot Before I Fall is another book I have. I wasn't originally going to include it on this list because I technically just finished it, but it's in March, so I'll count it. Before I Fall is essentially about a high school girl. She's in the popular group, and one day coming home from a party, she and all her friends are in a car accident, and then when she wakes up, it's that same morning again. So she's stuck in this loop, and she has to try and figure out how to get out of it. Next book on my list is Ironfoot by Dave Duncan. I've heard nothing about this one, and I probably won't read it this month since I am running out of time and the month is half over. There are just a bunch of other books I want to read more. The back says, "It is 1164, and for 100 years England has been ruled by the Normans. A young Saxon named Derwin, crippled by a childhood accident, is teaching at a rural school of magic when he manages to correct errors in an ancient corrupted spell that promptly prophesies murder. Sure enough, word soon reaches the school that a local count's house sage has died, perhaps slain by black magic. Derwin is whisked away to the nobleman's castle, only to learn of plans to assassinate King Henry. Dropped into the middle of the complex politics of England's royal courts, can Derwin stop the plot in time?" So this is more historical fiction fantasy, which I'm not a huge fan of. So that's why this one is lower on my list. But I will, if I don't read it this month, I will probably get to it eventually. Okay, the next book on my list is Followed by Frost by Charlie N. Holmberg. I actually read another book by this author, I think like 2 years ago, maybe when I was first starting up my channel. And I think I maybe did either a reading vlog or at least gave my thoughts on it. And her other book was The Paper Magician, and I hated that book. I wish I had DNF'd it. It wasn't bad per se, it was just so boring. There was nothing to hold my interest at all, which was sad because the magic system seemed pretty interesting. However, I will probably eventually continue the series. I've seen reviews and it seems like the second and third books are just so much better. As for Followed by Frost, this book isn't related to that trilogy. 17-year-old Smitha's wealth, status, and beauty make her the envy of her town, until she rejects a strange man's marriage proposal and disastrous consequences follow. Smitha becomes cursed, and Frost begins to encompass everything she touches. Banished to the hills, hunted by villagers, and chilled to the very core of her soul, she finds companionship with Death, who longs to coax her into his isolated world. But Smitha's desire for life proves stronger than despair, and a newfound purpose gives her hope. Will regrets over the past and an unexpected desire for a man she cannot touch be enough to warm Smitha's heart, or will death forever still it? The reason this one appeals to me is I really like the idea of her having this frost touch to the point where everybody avoids her or tries to hunt her down, and she feels very isolated. And that's when death comes into the picture. I really like the idea of her still wanting to live, and I feel like that's a beautiful message that I hope that the author does justice. I hope I like it. Hopefully. The next book on my list is The Vine Witch by Luann G. Smith. This is also high on my list. I want to read this one next. This is about a young witch who emerges from a curse centuries later to find that her home, which I think is a vineyard, has been taken over by somebody else, and the world now is just very different. I'm more excited by Followed by Frost because I think The Vine Witch has the trope enemies to lovers, which, if you know me at all, you know I really do not like that trope. I just feel like it's way too overdone.
Well, in general, I feel like the term enemies to lovers is not actually enemies to lovers. People use that term to refer to a couple that generally has friction or just dislikes each other at the beginning for really no good reason.
And that's why I don't like it. Anyway, she disguises herself to help the new owner of the vineyard who does not believe in magic, which is still a very interesting premise. That's it for my March TBR. That might not seem like that much, but the month is already half over and I've only read 2 books so far. Any of the books that I don't get to, I will read probably in the near future because all of them seem really fun. March is pretty much half over, but let me know in the comments what your March TBR is. Or if you've read any of these books, please let me know if you like them or not. I would love to read what you guys say. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you in another video. Bye!